Here are some more things I didn't know about giving birth until it was way too late. If this puts you off having kids forever, it's not my fault. They should teach this stuff in school. So everyone knows that while you're in labour, you get contractions. But what I didn't know until I had my baby was that you will get contractions after you give birth. After that baby is out of you, you get contractions. Those contractions are helping your vagina go back to normal. Because your vagina does go back to normal. People make jokes like, oh, after you have a baby, it's loose, you're a bucket, but that's not actually the case. Some people say it actually goes tighter. Me personally, compared to the contractions, because I gave birth with no pain relief, not through choice, I barely felt those contractions. After the contractions I had during labour, after pushing a baby out of my vagina, those contractions felt like nothing, but everyone will experience it differently. Some will have light contractions, some will have really strong ones. The pain will feel different for everyone, but me personally, I barely felt them. Now, I mentioned in my first video that after you give birth, you will bleed for up to 6 weeks, if not longer. I only found out through the comments of that video that the same thing happens after you have a cesarean. I don't know why I thought that it only happens if you have a vaginal birth. I don't know why I thought that. That was really stupid of me in hindsight. But I'm not the only one that thought that. After a cesarean, you will bleed the same amount as if you have just had a vaginal birth. And I'm going to quickly say, because all of you know this anyway, but a cesarean is a proper birth. And after I gave birth, out my vagina, no pain relief, I always said, well, I'm going to get a cesarean next time. I'm going to get a cesarean next time. That'll be way better. I promise you it's not. Like I said, never had a cesarean, so I have nothing to compare it to. But based on cesarean stories I've heard, a cesarean can be just as traumatic, if not more traumatic, than a vaginal birth. A cesarean is not an easy way out. This is more to do with pregnancy, but you know in all the movies when a woman has an ultrasound, the ultrasound person will always say, oh, this is going to be really cold. This gel I'm about to put on your tummy, it's going to be really cold. Mine wasn't cold. Mine was quite warm and pleasant, actually. I don't know why they say it's cold. Maybe some people it is cold, but when I had to have 5 scans. Wait. 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks, 20 weeks, 30 weeks, I had 6 scans. It was warm every time. Also, ultrasound dildo. Do you know what an ultrasound dildo is? Okay, that's not the proper medical terminology, but sometimes when you have a pregnancy scan, and this is usually in the early stages of pregnancy, if they can't find your baby through the tummy ultrasound way, there's a vaginal one they'll use. And I had to have that twice. It was fun. When you're going through labour, you won't care who sees your kuka. My foster mum saw it. My mum saw it. I didn't care. I did not care. My waters broke naturally, so I don't know what it's like to have your labour induced and have your waters broken for you. But if your waters break naturally, it just feels like a water balloon popping inside you. It's not painful. As far as I remember, it wasn't painful for me. It does feel like something has popped inside you, and it's the weirdest sensation. Because for my labour, because the midwives, I've spoken about it before, how my midwives neglected me. I kept pushing because I felt like I had to. I couldn't control it. And the midwife said, oh, you just need a wee. That's all that's happening. You need a wee. What was actually happening was my daughter's head was coming out and my waters broke. But because they told me I just needed a wee, I thought my kidney had burst open. But it wasn't. It was my waters. Forceps. That's all I'm going to say. Forceps. My mum, she has 3 kids. I'm the middle one. My older sister was a forceps birth. Now, I don't know what I thought forceps looked like, because when you really deeply think about it, what forceps actually look like, yeah, it makes full sense. But like, I just thought a forceps delivery was these tongs, obviously this isn't a tong, but like these tongs like that go around the baby's head when the baby's head is already out. So when the baby's head is halfway out, they use the forceps to pull the baby out. I'm not gonna green screen what forceps actually look like and how forceps delivery actually happens, but I saw a forceps delivery the other day and I wanted to die. Watch a forceps delivery at your own risk. Just look at the tongs. I don't think they're actually called tongs, but that's what I've been calling them. Just Google forceps tongs or whatever the medical term is. Just Google it. Just look at what they look like. You won't even need to see the delivery. As soon as you see what forceps look like, you will understand how a forceps delivery works. It's so horrific. The umbilical cord, where does it go? I still don't know where it goes. When the umbilical cord gets cut, some of you might know this, some of you won't, but like a part remains attached to your baby's navel and then it just falls off within like a week or 2 weeks, however long. I can't remember how long it took my daughters, but there'll be like a little nub that stays attached to your baby's belly button and then it just falls off. But I don't know where the rest of it goes. Like the part that's inside, does it just evaporate? I still don't know. I could Google it and find out instead of coming to TikTok, but I don't want to know. I don't actually want to know. Your baby doesn't always come out of your vagina crying. And I know that sounds really stupid and like not a major thing, but for me it was. Because in all the movies, babies come out screaming. They come out crying. My daughter didn't make a sound. My daughter didn't cry until she was 2 days old. And the thing is, the position I gave birth in was like on all fours. So when my daughter came out, I felt it. I definitely felt her come out, but I couldn't see her and then I couldn't hear her. And the first couple of seconds I freaked out. And the first questions I was asking the midwives is, oh my God, is she okay? Is she okay? Because I can feel that she's come out, but she's not making a noise. Is she okay? So don't believe the movies. Like, if your baby doesn't cry, it doesn't mean it's anything bad. They're just not crying. What annoyed me as well, I had to stay in hospital for 3 days. I've spoken about this before. And because my daughter didn't cry for 2 days, I was sharing a room with like all these other pregnant women, like on the ward. It wasn't even my own baby keeping me awake. It was all the other babies. I know that's not their fault. It's not the baby's fault or the parents' fault, but I was like so tired. My baby wasn't even the one keeping me awake. After you give birth, you might shake like crazy. When I give birth, as I was giving birth, I've heard this thing, I don't even want to talk about it, but I've heard apparently when you give birth, you can have an orgasm, right? Now, I don't think that happened to me, but my legs were shaking like crazy when she came out, like proper shaky legs. And for about 2 or 3 hours after I gave birth, I did just have like the shakes, like not major, but I felt like all my nerves were dancing. I was proper shaking. And I thought something was wrong with me. And the midwives were like, no, that's normal. And she said it was stupid. It could be because your body's in shock. Like your body has just gone through something massive, something really traumatic and hard. That part of it could be your body is in shock, so you're just shaking. The midwife also said it could be like an adrenaline rush. Your baby's first poo will be black and green, and they will shit on you. My daughter, when I pushed her out and she went into shock, while still inside me, she shit herself. When I held my daughter for the first time, when they put her on my chest for the first time, she shit all over me. It was all over my chest. But you don't care. You genuinely don't care. I always thought I'd be like struggling with the nappies. Like, and of course I knew, well, I'm gonna have to do it. Like, this is part of being a mum. But when it's your own baby, you don't care. If it was someone else's baby, I'd throw that baby. But when it's your own baby, you don't care. She shit all over me. I didn't care. But it was black and green. It will be black and green for a while, and then it goes yellow. It's fun. And the smell, you'll never smell anything like it. In no other situation will you smell a smell like that. I think most people know this one, but due dates are in no way accurate. I don't know a single person that had their baby born on the day they were due. If you did, I want you to comment, because I want to know if it's how common it actually is. Because it's not. Most people will never have their baby on their due date. My daughter was 2 days before her due date. I assumed that whoever your birthing partner was would be able to stay with you overnight. The father of my child wasn't there when I gave birth. He knew I was in labour. He didn't come. But my mum and my foster carer were there when I gave birth, and I gave birth at 5:26 p.m. Visiting hours were over at 8 p.m. So from 8 p.m. I was all alone in the hospital. Midwives would visit me. They'd come in and check on me, so I wasn't like completely alone, but no one I was close to got to stay with me. I also didn't know, is the thing, I didn't know in this country, right? In England, as far as I'm aware, you could give birth at 6 in the morning. And as long as everything goes okay, you could be back at home in the evening. In some other countries, that's not a rule. Like in some other countries, you have to stay overnight, even if everything's fine. Can someone confirm that? Because I don't know how accurate that is, but that is my understanding. I had to stay in hospital for 3 days for other reasons. But yeah, if you give birth with no complications, in some countries, you can go home on the same day, and in other countries you're not allowed. Anyway, there's plenty more things that I didn't know before I gave birth. Some of them that directly apply to my experience, but then there's other things I know that I didn't go through, but they're a thing. So let me know if you want a part 2. Let me know if you want to be re-traumatized, or if you want more reasons not to have children. Which, by the way, full disclaimer, my child was the best thing that ever happened to me, but if you don't want kids, this is perfect contraception.